times when 1 plus 1 is more than 2, and a good co-writing session can be one of those times. Co-writing is when 2 or 3 songwriters get together and brainstorm ideas and develop one of them and maybe get as far as having a rough draft for a complete song. In this video, we're going to talk about why doing a co-writing session might be a good idea for you and how to get the most out of it. Hi, I'm Brian Wise from Unmute Your Muse, where we teach 5-minute masterclasses using the Gold Song Solution. We help songwriters write the kinds of songs that people will love, buy, and tell their friends about. Now, you may or may not have much experience with co-writing or even have heard of it before, because I know in some songwriting circles it's something that happens all the time. In other places, just other geographic locations, it's just not something that happens a ton. It tends to be something that is particularly used by professional songwriters, as in songwriters who are trying to write songs for other acts to perform, when not necessarily writing for themselves. So in the big songwriting cities like Nashville, Los Angeles, London, those kinds of places, you'll see a lot of people doing songwriting sessions on purpose, on a regular basis, sometimes even more than once a day. In other places, it's just something that's kind of hit or miss. But I think there are a lot of benefits to doing some of those, no matter where you are in the songwriting world, whether you're trying to write for other people or whether you're writing for a solo act or as part of a band. There are definite benefits for doing so. Some of those benefits would include just getting the new ideas and new perspectives that come along with working with somebody else. Every songwriter has a different set of skills and a different set of experiences, and when you combine your strengths with somebody else's strengths, you sometimes get unexpected results, things that neither of you could have come up with on your own. And perhaps the most important part, and the thing that I have valued the most out of the co-writing sessions that I've done over the years, is it's a way to develop deeper friendships within the songwriting community. I have people that I've written with who come from entirely different genres than I would normally play in myself. But when we bring our different skills together, we're able to come up with something really awesome. And then these are the kinds of people that I go to when I need help, or just that we've become friends in an outside of even the music world kind of a way, where these are people that I love and I care about. So what does a co-writing session actually look like? Like I said in the intro, it's usually only 2 or 3 people. If you add more than that, things tend to get a little complicated. It can be in person or it can be virtual, and that's happening more and more these days, that people are able to use Zoom or some other technology online where you can be able to write back and forth together live from across the world. Like I've had co-writing sessions with people in Australia and from Ireland and England, and that's the other side of the world from me here in the eastern coast of the United States. The technology makes it a little interesting where if you're going to actually try and play something live together, if you don't have a very strong connection, some of the delay can be an issue. But if you're just trying to hash out lyrics and an idea, then there's not really any issue whatsoever with using some of these streaming technologies so you can communicate with live video. And the fact that you are able to interact with people who are on the other side of the world who you might not ever actually meet in real life and yet write really awesome songs with is just pretty cool. A typical co-writing session is usually about an hour and a half, and you can decide ahead of time whether you're going to be working on lyrics or music or trying to do both at the same time. That's kind of a preference that's different for different people. Usually it's a good idea to at least come to a co-writing session with some ideas ready to bounce off the other person. Now you may or may not end up picking one of those ideas, but it's a good idea to at least have something to get you started. Also, there are great local networks, and sometimes there are live meetups in certain areas, or when social distancing is not happening, obviously, where you can do that live, where you can meet other people in your area to be able to network that way. Or virtually, there are all sorts of places for you to meet other songwriters. The first place we always recommend is our very own Facebook group, the Unstuck Songwriter Society. You can find a link for that in the description box. And we've actually had quite a few people within our group hook up with other people in the groups to do co-writing sessions virtually, or Zoom or whatever, from opposite sides of the world. So no matter where you are, or what your experience level is, what your strengths are, there are people out there who will be willing to write with you if you can just overcome the fear of putting yourself out there a little bit and trying to make some new connections. So how do you get the most out of a co-writing session? We're going to break this down chronologically. First, we're going to talk about what you should do beforehand. So before the day of the actual co-writing session, other than just scheduling it to make sure that it happens, like I said, everybody should probably come to the session with some ideas ready to go. Now that can just be a topic, or it could be a title. Having a list of titles that you could write about is a pretty common way of doing things. Or if you've taken any of our courses on lyric writing, either the pilot program that we had or the Liberated Lyrics program that we're running right now, we teach a lot of different ways to blueprint songs. That's to take an idea and to expand it and start to talk about things that are going to happen in each of the verses and how the story is going to progress through the song, how that's all going to tie together and interact with the chorus. So if you have a rough blueprint, even if it's just maybe a summary sentence for each of the different sections of the song, that's a good place to start when you're working with somebody else. Now, you can't necessarily hold too tightly onto that because things may change as you interact with the person, and that's part of the reason that you do the co-writing session, is to get new ideas. So if you're going to be bringing an idea to a co-writing session, you have to be flexible with it. You can't be totally locked into doing it your own way, or else what's the point of having the interaction? Because one of the main strengths of doing a co-writing session in the first place is having that synergy where you are getting fresh ideas from somebody else's perspective, and you can come up with something that's better and stronger and longer lasting when you have two different people putting their strengths together than if you were just locked in the room by yourself working on it. Now, on the day of the co-writing session, there's a couple important things to keep in mind. First off, as you're bouncing ideas around with each other, it's important to stay as positive as possible, to be encouraging with each other. So if the other person says something that you're not a fan of, like they are just throwing out ideas and you don't like it, you're like, don't ever say anything negative, like that's a dumb idea. Or I often try to not even say the word no, like no, let's not do that. If they say something I don't like, then you stay quiet and you ask, just give me more, keep going. And then when you do find an idea that you like and you want to latch onto, then it's like, yes, let's give some positive encouragement and try and feed off of each other positively that way. It tends to work a lot better when there's a no zone and everybody's just being encouraging with each other. You'll end up getting more work done that way as things just keep moving forward. And then at the end of the session, like you may have just a really good topic that you've settled on, or a great metaphor. You may have fleshed out a blueprint to more or less detail. You might have a chorus written or a hook. You may have an idea for what you want the verses to be. And I've even had some hour-and-a-half co-writing sessions where we've gotten a rough draft of the entire song like nailed down. Like there still would be some editing that would need to happen. Things can always be improved upon, but there are times when things are really clicking with somebody that you could even get a whole song done in an hour and a half. And some of my best songs have come out that way. Now, some of the more complicated issues with co-writing can be what happens after the session. Some of this can be ameliorated by having some good open discussions ahead of time. So far as copyright goes, if both of you have been contributing, then both of you are entitled to songwriting credits. But then what do you do with the song afterwards? It's good to have some discussions about what you might be doing ahead of time, but then there's also, if you're not from writing for the same band, or if you're writing with somebody who's on the other side of the world and you might not ever actually interact with them in a live setting, you have to have a discussion then about, okay, if we came up with something that you both like, who gets to develop that farther? Is it something that you both you continue to get together and work on until the song's done, and then maybe you can both perform it separately in different parts of the world? Or do one of you take ownership for it, but then just continue to give songwriting credit to the other? Those are just the kinds of open conversations that you need to have. And the biggest thing that I can stress here is just to be communicative. Be open, be honest, talk a lot about what you want, what your expectations are. So I encourage you to give co-writing a try. I think it's an incredible way for you to stretch yourself a little bit outside of your comfort zones, to hear other perspectives and other ideas and other experiences that people are going to bring to the session. I think it's a great way to come up with some really great results and even increase your own skills as you pick up little tips and tricks from the other people that you're writing with. So I encourage you to give it a try. Hop into the Facebook group where there are tons of people who are exactly the kind of people that you want to be working with doing a project like this. So I will see you guys around. Take care. Stay safe.